Welcome to the final webinar in our series on export controls. Today we will be exploring the process of actually applying for an export license. Open to Export is a free online website, community website where you can ask questions of our experts, and don't forget you can use our free new export action planning tool and be eligible to win £3,000 of funding. And don't forget, all the questions from this webinar will be posted in our Ask the Experts forum, so you can follow them up after the webinar. For those of you who couldn't attend the first 3 webinars, the recordings are also on our website and also on our YouTube channel. Thank you for sending in your questions so far. With so many people signed up for this webinar, we may not be able to ask them all during the webinar, but we will post them onto the forum when the webinar is finished. So please bear with us. With this in mind, can you please try to keep your questions focused on the topic in general, as we don't plan to be able to answer specific questions relating to your product during the webinar. So without any more ado, may I introduce today's presenters, who are Claire Harrison and Michelle Sullivan from the Export Controls Office. Ladies, over to you.
Thanks very much, Ian. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last of the series in the Export Control webinars. Slide number 2, please. If you dialed into our previous webinars, which started just before Easter, you will know that our first one was a beginner's overview. The second took you through the process of classifying items on the control lists. And last week, we looked at the licenses which were best suited to your export. In this final webinar, Michelle is going to guide you through SPIRE, which is our online portal for nearly all license applications. She'll be advising on how to apply for a standard individual export license and what requirements there are for supporting documentation. If you haven't looked at the previous webinars, you'll see these on the screen now and how to get access to them. Next slide, please, Ian. To apply for an export license, you need to open a SPIRE account. SPIRE is a bespoke database providing a single end-to-end licensing system. For those who signed up for the first 2 webinars, you will remember that SPIRE has many applications. It can be used for license applications, open general export license registrations, for applying for MOD F680 authorizations, and it also gives you access to the control list search tool and the end user advice service. One of the key benefits of SPIRE is the automatic link to Chief, which is the HMRC database for handling import and export freight via the automatic license verification process. So how can you get access to all these tools? The first step is to download SPIRE, and you will see there what the SPIRE logon is. To use SPIRE, you need to create a company account and login details. You should use the details of your company as they appear on the Companies House database. Remember, it's 1 registration per company. You will receive a letter, a declaration, sent to the company secretary or equivalent, and this needs to be signed and returned before registration is activated. For multiple users within your organisation, you need to decide who will initiate the registration. We recognise that you may be exporting items from more than one of your sites, and you can list all company sites using the One Companies House registration. Next slide, please. On the SPIRE portal, you will also find access to a number of tools. For instance, the types of items controlled. It'll give you access to the military and dual use control lists and the goods checker. It'll give you access to open licenses and which one's appropriate to you, and access to the open general export license goods checker. There's a wealth of information and guidance which is actually on this home page. For many of you, you won't actually access SPIRE via this home page. You'll probably go onto it from a bookmarked link into SPIRE, straight direct into your web basket, your work basket. But if you do access it via this home page, you will find all the different forms of information down the right and left-hand sides. Examples, in addition to the accessing for new applications and open license registrations, are that you'll be able to find a link to sign up to notices to exporters, guidance on making open license returns, information on managing your registration, and the background on when you need to apply for an MOD form F680 authorization. Next slide, please.
Once you've set up your SPIRE account and logged in, you will come to the Spire Workbasket, or as I'd like to refer to it as the home page. Now what I'm going to quickly do, I'll run you through the areas on the home page that are relevant to you, but also as we go through the slides from a standard individual export license, you will notice that I've highlighted certain areas with a red circle. These are areas where mistakes are commonly made, and I'll highlight what not to do so that when you do license applications there won't be unnecessary delays due to you filling in the wrong application. Now looking at the Workbasket slide in front of you, the centre is for live applications. You access all services and your own registration details on the left hand side of the page. In order to control your own account, you have manage my registration, update my details, update my password and user preferences. Via the manage registration link, you will be able to take control of your SPIRE account, add and remove users, but also as a company administrator for the SPIRE account, you will be able to set security settings enabling people during varying grades of experience to apply for licenses or do drafts or do everything that you can do on the SPIRE system. We also have advice services like the end user advisory service when your goods are not controlled, the goods checker link, OGEL checker, which allows you to check your goods, and once you've checked the goods, see if there's an open general license available. All licenses that are issued will be archived, so you will find those under the search license application screen, and then you'll have new applications. Next slide, please. We're going to go for a standard individual export license. As Claire mentioned at the beginning, we covered all the licenses in our previous webinar. The standard individual export license is a specific license when open licenses are not available. This will be the type of license you will need to apply for. It is for specific goods, specific quantities, and a specific end user. There's also requirements for other documents to be uploaded, which I will deal with later on through this webinar. A standard individual license lasts for 2 years. If you apply for a temporary license, it only lasts for 1 year, but it can be revoked at any time. Next slide, please. In order to apply for a standard individual license, in your Workbasket, you will go to the left-hand side and you will click New Application. This is where you access all of our licenses which you would apply for on the SPIRE system. Next slide, please. As you can see from this following slide, all the licenses are listed under the different types. We have open individual licenses, standard individual trade licenses, open individual export licenses, and OGLs further down the screen. Today we're going to be applying for a permanent standard individual license. So you would click the button permanent, click start application. Could we have the next slide, please? Once this is done, this is the start of your standard individual export license. The reference is relevant to you in order for you to know what order this is. Your reference can be anything you want it to be, as long as it is a way of you linking this order with your purchase order, etc. One thing I need to point out, in the previous application box, please ensure that if you've applied for licenses with us previously, list them, as it does and will help us rate your goods and maybe even speed up the process, because we would have dealt with the same types of goods previously. Next slide, please. You now have the proposed licensee. The licensee is the exporter of records, or the person who has rights of disposal. One thing you need to make sure is that on your SPIRE registration you have listed your EORI number. This used to be referred to as a turn number, but all it really is your VAT number with 3 numbers after it, usually 3 zeros. If your EORI number is not attached to your license, when we issue the license and it's sent to the chief system, you could have delays, as it will say license not available to declare trader. So please ensure all of your organisation details are full and up to date, making sure when you do put the EORI number in, do not use any letters as in GB. There's only space for the full numbers and nothing else. Next page. Anyone who applies for a standard individual licence will put down their contact details. Now, the personal details are very important because this is how we contact you. Everything we do on SPIRE is done electronically. So when we issue the licenses, or if we have any queries, we need to send you an email and you will be asked to log into the SPIRE system. I've highlighted the email address because the amount of times we see applications with info@ or customer services @ please ensure that whatever email address is put into this box, it is a valid registered SPIRE account. Otherwise, you will not be able to receive your licenses or respond to any inquiries we have. Next slide, please. This is the goods page. Now, in order for us to rate your goods, you will list the goods as they are described on your shipping document. I've highlighted that one of the worst examples we receive on a daily basis are generic goods described as spares. In order for us to be able to rate your goods, we need more information regarding the types of goods that you are applying for. So please ensure when you do the goods list, you need to let us know, 1, if the goods were specifically designed for military use or not, what the parameters are, supporting technical information, and please make sure you described the goods or the name of how you are exporting these goods. You can also give us general goods description and further details on the bottom of every page. One thing to remember though, when you are doing the goods list, you need to include, so if you look at the line that I've highlighted, there's a quantity of 200. At the end of the row, you have to make sure the total value is for the 200 goods. SPIRE does not add up across, but it will add up the full totals once completed. Next slide, please. The nature of goods page is very important to the technical officers. So when you are answering these questions, please ensure you answer them clearly and concisely as possible, because this can help speed up the application and help us determine if your goods fit into the parameters of the control list. Next slide, please. The end use of goods. There are various questions asked on this page. Now, if you're a company that's have your goods stopped by customs, there are various places here where we will ask you, have you been informed of an end use concern? Please include any numbers or references that you have been given by customs, or if you've used our end user advisory service, please put the reference in the various stages on this page. The end use details helps us determine which other government departments we will circulate to, and it also gives the other government departments answers to questions that may not be clearly listed in your licence application or the paperwork that you've provided at the time. Next slide, please. Goods recipient. The goods recipient is important. Now, usually you have to tell us if the goods are being consigned to a consignee or the end user if they're going directly. Now, a consignee is not the person that's involved in moving the goods, as in your freight agent. The consignee is the first person to take possession of the goods outside the UK. So, for example, if the goods are going via America to the Maldives, then the consignee would be the company in America that you're exporting via, and the end user will be the person who's purchasing the goods. One thing you must remember, where goods lose their identity, that's where the end use ends. So if you send goods to a recipient who is going to incorporate them into a higher assembly, they will be the end user because the goods have lost their identity. Next slide, please. If your goods have been incorporated, they would have been built for another customer. So, if the goods have lost their identity and they're being built into a higher assembly, there will be ultimate end users for those goods. An example would be you send spares to France where they're being incorporated into a vehicle. The vehicle then will be shipped to various Ministry of Defences around the world. So anyone who has the full higher assembly good, they would be the ultimate end user. So please ensure if goods are being manufactured for specific ultimate end users, please list all the ultimate end users here. Otherwise there could be delays incurred because we will have to ask you, and if there's more than 5 to 10 ultimate end users, you may have to stop the application and reapply again, listing them all. Next slide, please. Other third parties. Other third parties can be your shippers, transportation services, agents, brokers, etc. So anyone else involved in the movement of these goods, you can list them on this application. Next slide, please. Once you've completed the form, you will be asked to supply supporting documentation. Now, when I was talking about the goods list, please provide the technical specifications for any of the goods that you are wishing to export. This will help our technical team, who are scientists and engineers, determine the control parameters of your goods against our consolidated control list. Without these technical specifications, we may not be able to do that. So if you have the paperwork, please include it. Next page. Next slide. Regarding the end user undertakings, there are two types that we will request with all permanent licence applications. You have an end user undertaking and a stockist undertaking. These need to be supplied on all applications except there is one exemption. If your end user is a government organisation, we ask aware that it would be difficult to get a government to sign a document. So in lieu of the EUU or stockist undertaking, we will accept a purchase order or pages of the relevant contract. Now, regarding the stockist and the end user undertaking, it must be printed and put on the end user's letterhead. Any translated writing needs to be on a separate document informing us, or alternatively, if the letterhead is in foreign language, please ensure that you have an English translation either under or an accompanying letter. We will accept stamps, however, we may need translations of those stamps. Please ensure that it's dated no less than 6 months old, or we cannot accept it. And when it comes to the stockist undertaking, please also ensure that when it comes to the declaration, you've chosen either the goods will not be re-exported, subsection 1, or subsection 2, the goods will be re-exported to the following countries or customers. Next slide, please. Once you've put on your supporting documentation, all you need to do is fill in the declaration, highlighting that you are an authorised registered user on SPIRE, read the declaration and press submit. Next slide, please. Once the licence application has been submitted, what happens then is it is submitted to export control and goes through various processing stages, from the licensing, reception, enforcement unit, technical unit, then it arrives at a licensing officer like myself. We then will check the paperwork. If everything's correct, we will then distribute to the various government departments, as you can see from our table listed below. Once a decision has been made, the licence will come back to us. We will do further checks, and then if everything's fine, we will issue you with a licence or documentation saying that you do not require a licence. However, there are various other processes where we may refuse the licence, but details about that are on the Gov.uk site, or if you have any questions, you can ask us later on. Next slide, please. There are many reasons for delays to your licence application, and we've highlighted a few of these here for your own information. Mainly the documentation that you've provided is not sufficient, or the areas have not been filled in. The goods descriptions are not clear enough or too vague. You've not listed the third parties or ultimate end users. You don't know if the goods are being incorporated, or if they are being incorporated, you've filled in the wrong end user or consignee. And ultimate end use is not very clear from the application. So I've given you areas where you need to ensure that you focus on so that there are no delays. Next slide, please. So, looking at my summary screen, you'll see that when making licence applications, make sure you provide all the information required and supporting documentation. Ensure that you apply for licences as early as possible. We are currently processing over 70% of our standard individual licences within 20 days, working days, and 99% within 60 working days. So, as you're aware, the Export Control Organisation is the licensing authority, but the decision to issue a licence is made on the advice of many other government advisors. So it seems like a long process. However, if everything's completed correctly and everything's been uploaded, you should hopefully receive a licence as long as there's no issues with the customer or destination that you're supplying to. Next slide, please.
We're not short of guidance material for export controls and the licensing process, and I'm sure those of you that have been in contact with us will fully understand that. The first point of contact and the first point of reference for all of the evidence about export controls is on the gov.uk website. I've put up here a link through to the main page for the Export Control Organisation, and all other pages can be found linked to this main page. There's a range of detailed guides on there, and it'll help you to understand when you need a licence, what licence to apply for, and how to remain compliant with export controls. You'll also find access to a number of different tools. This is available from the gov.uk website. In our previous webinars, we talked about the control list. One of the first points of action on this should be to download or access, open up, the control list which is relevant to your item, so either the military list or the dual use control list. So please ensure that you become familiar with those lists and know where to find them. Also, on the gov.uk website, you can access the tool which will enable you to find out whether your goods are on the list. That's called the Goods Checker. This is a really good place to start. Sister to the Goods Checker is something called the OGL Checker. It's all on the same platform, and that will give you an indication of whether an open license is actually going to be appropriate for your particular export. We've got a range of open licenses available, and one of those may be applicable to what you're wanting to do. Other things you'll find on the gov.uk website, the criteria by which we assess all standard individual export licenses. There's a set of 8 criteria, and you'll be able to download those. If you're wanting to have information about legislation and any changes to export control, you can subscribe to our Notices to Exporter service. You can find a link to that either on the SPIRE website or directly from gov.uk. To start off your search into which is the most appropriate market for your items, you might want to have a look at the sanctions pages and also our export control statistics. Finally, what I want to talk through with you is about the training courses that the Export Control Organisation provide on a very regular basis. We have a series of training courses, beginners courses, intermediate courses, and specific courses for control list classification and for enabling you to make your licenses in a better way. You can sign up for those courses, and you can find information of access to them on the gov.uk if you just search for training bulletin on the Export Control Organisation page. We've also got a couple of DVDs that we produced a couple of years ago. Please feel free to sign up to open one of those. They give you some very basic background on export controls. Before we close this part of the webinar, I did want to make it clear that some of you will have already heard or received information about the fact that we're developing a new platform to replace SPIRE, the license platform, and this is due to be launched in 2017. All your applications should, and up until then, should be made in the way that Michelle has just described to you. The platform is currently being developed. We have a team of people working on it, and what we're doing is testing, user testing, as we go through the development stages. At the moment, we have a prototype to test the new services. What we'd like to do is to be able to recruit some new users to help us with the testing on this. If you're interested in getting involved with giving us some feedback or doing some user testing for us, can you please make a note of this email address? The SPIRE team is different to the export control team. They work on their own, the SPIRE development team. And the contact there is Natalie Anderson. Her email address is Natalie, that's natalie.anderson@digital.gsi.gov.uk. If you want to engage with this, can you please make contact with Natalie directly? Thank you. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Okay, well, thank you, Claire and Michelle. for that romp through the application process. Right, now we get to some questions that we've had through for you to have a listen to and see if you can provide some answers for us. Right, the first question is from somebody called Lee Reynolds. He says he's looking at using the OGEL for the F-35 program named Exports in Support of Joint Strike Fighter F-35 Lightning II. Specifically, his question applies to Section 3 countries and destinations allowed under this license. The USA is listed as a partner nation in point 1, but not under point 3, as countries which may develop, produce, trial and test or use the goods, software or technology for this license. Does that mean he cannot ship parts to the USA?
I'll answer that one. What it usually means, I've not got the license in front of me, Lee, but how it works usually, part 1 you ship to, and then part 2 where there's a second set of countries, what happens is usually you could ship to America, a small sub-assembly would be made, then from America the goods will then come back to say another European member state or the countries listed in Section 3. But without the license in front of me I can't be 100% specific, but we'll be happy for Lee to send an email in, or if you've got the email, forward it to me and I will answer that. But usually if America's on part 1, you send the goods to that country, then from that country they can ship to any other destination in part 3, but without the license I can't be 100% because I've not got it in front of me.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, so we've got another question in from an Eric Nordmeyer. And he's asking, is there a license required for technical assistance? For example, the installation of a dual-use goods in Africa, the service being provided by a different party than the manufacturer.
Technical assistance, usually a license is required when there's a WMD end-use concern. So what the individual would need to do would be to provide us with the information as to what services they're offering, who they're offering the services to, send an email to eco.help at biz.gsi.gov.uk. Title the email technical assistance, providing goods, services and everything that you're supplying, and we will have a look at that application because technical assistance is one of the only licenses paper version via one of our managers within the office.
Okay, thanks for answering that. You did drop out a bit there on the sound, so apologies to anybody who had that same problem.
Sorry.
That's okay. Right, we have a question from Anthony Mazzotta, and he's saying, we have recently won an order to supply components for the NIMR armoured vehicle produced in the UAE. Is there an OGEL for this vehicle, or do we need another type of license?
You would need to find out whether there is an OGEL yourself, Anthony, on that. One of the ways that you can do that is you need to determine what the actual item is that you're going to be exporting. Once you've identified the control list entry, you can use our OGEL checker, and you can determine for yourself what the appropriate OGEL is. I've been reliably informed that the actual control list entry could be ML6A if it's for military vehicles. What you should do is enter that into the OGEL checker together with the country to which you want to send it to, UAE, and it'll flag up for you which the appropriate OGELs you can actually use.
All right, thanks very much for answering that. Yep, I think I answered that one very comprehensively. Right, we've got James Zulis asking the following question. Are tariff codes now more closely aligned to the need to apply for an export license? Previously, it's been advised by ECO staff that one can't depend on the notes given against the tariff codes.
Okay, on that one, it's a question that we get asked quite a lot actually about the tariff codes. There is no correlation between the tariff code, the harmonised system tariff code, and the control list entries. What you will find is that on the tariff system, which is the tariff code, there will be footnotes in the tariff system which indicate obtained before you can export. But it's very difficult to be able to determine from the tariff exactly whether there's a related control list entry. So please treat them differently. They're not the same at all. Please treat them differently. To find out whether your goods are on the control list, please check the control list entry rating out using the services we've to tariff are the range of goods which are restricted in movement under the Russian sanctions. Under the Russian sanctions, there's a whole list of items which are restricted to that particular market, and they are listed by the tariff codes. Okay?
Yep, thanks, Claire. We are having some sound issues from your end, so apologies to anybody if they're having any problems hearing the answers fully. But don't worry, we will also be posting these questions and the answers on our experts forum. Right, okay. Next question. Thomas Blair is asking, the OGEL for oil and gas doesn't cover all of their items. So what would be the best license to apply for that can be tailored to their specific pool of oil and gas equipment?
Where the OGEL doesn't cover you, you can apply for a standard individual export license. However, a lot of the goods that are exported in the oil and gas industry may be temporary exports. So you can either do a temporary SIEL, or you may wish to apply for an open individual export license, specifically covering the continental shelves around the world that you will be trading in. But my suggestion to you would be to drop us an email through the helpline, and we'll happily give you advice as to what the best license is available. But standard license or open individual license when an OGEL is not available.
Great, thanks, Michelle, for answering that one for us. Right, now Mary Hampton is asking the following question. She's saying, can I make a chief notification before shipping under a SIEL via SPIRE, or does this go direct?
Well, when the Export Control Organisation issues export licenses, the only licenses that are sent to the chief system are all licenses outside the EU. Any license that has been issued for any member state within the EU, they are not on the chief system. You will not be able to make a chief entry prior to exporting unless it's on an open general license that has the 30-day rule. However, all the rest of the licenses, as in SEALs and oils that we issue, until we issue with that license, you will not have a license number in order to decrement the license against the chief system. So in general, no, you will have to wait for us to issue with the license unless it's an open general license that you've registered to use.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Right, we've got a nice simple question here. Smart Masoni is asking, are export licenses required for export of goods to Australia?
Depends whether the items are going to be in the control list, Smart. I think we've covered this before somewhere online. If for Australia, for military goods,
Yeah.
let's take military goods. If the military goods are going anywhere in the world, they're going to need an export license. Okay, that includes Australia, and also for the dual use items. You don't need a dual use. You don't need a license for dual use items. For the majority of them, if they're being exported to anywhere in the EU, but anywhere outside the EU, you do need a license. So you will need some sort of license. Now, if they're dual-use goods, it's possible that the EU GEA 001 license could cover you for many of the items which might be controlled there. So it's worth looking on for dual-use goods at that particular license for Australia.
Great. Thanks for answering that one for us, Claire. Right, Mark Bolton is asking a question that I think has been asked before, but he's asking, is there any likelihood that the requirement for the original wet signed undertakings will be changed in the near future as the world moves towards more digital?
We are looking into that process at the moment. Currently, it must be wet signed, not digital signature, but as we said on our previous webinar, we are hoping that there will be changes in the future along with the technology, but at the moment they have to be wet signed.
Great. Thanks for answering that one for us, Michelle. Right, Vicky McGuinness is saying, EORI number, she hasn't seen that before. They're based in the Isle of Man, could that be why?
Well, regarding exports to the Isle of Man, from the UK, they're
no, she's based in the Isle of Man.
Based in the Isle of Man, it's not. It may not be a requirement. All she needs to do is, if she goes to the Gov UK website, so www.gov.uk website, all she'll need to do is, if she types in capitals EORI, this will bring her to the European website where her company can register for the EORI number, and she will be given the EORI number that would be put on the system. It's not a new thing, it's been available, but it is a customs thing that is nothing to do with us at Export Control. It's all to do with your VAT number and duties, I presume, incurred when shipping.
Great, thanks for answering that one for us. Right, Victoria Wilkinson is asking, how many lines of goods can you apply for on one SIEL?
We didn't get that, Ian.
Sorry, Victoria is asking, how many lines of goods can you apply for? Have we got a technical problem?
Okay, regarding SPIRE, no, I heard that question.
Right.
Regarding SPIRE, you can put as many lines really as you want to. It starts to have a fit when you hit about 90. My advice to you is to list the goods on the license, but when you've put in around 10 lines, save, because if the system crashes, you've lost all that information. So save the goods list as you go along to ensure you don't lose it. But there isn't a set number of lines. The only thing is 500 characters per goods descriptor.
Great, thanks for answering that one for us, Michelle. I hope you can still hear us. Lauren is asking, will you be bringing back the annual symposium and also the cryptography training?
Oh, I think that's one for me. I hope you did find the annual symposiums helpful. I know they're quite different to the rest of the trainings that we do provide. We've taken a decision this year, actually, because we've had 3 in a row so far. We've taken a decision this year that because the new digital platform replacing SPIRE isn't coming on stream until 2017, what we're going to do is to delay the next symposium until after the introduction of SPIRE. This is simply because a lot of the information that we will be giving out in the symposium will need to be based on that new system. So unfortunately we won't be having a symposium this year, but please watch out for when we're going to be advertising it for next year. As far as the crypto training is concerned, we've had a lot of questions about the crypto training, and we're in contact with the technical experts who look after the crypto in CESG, and we're trying to get something off the ground for this year. To find out, please keep in contact with us through the notices to exporters and the training bulletin, and as soon as we've got a date for it, we'll enter it on the training bulletin. But hopefully, yes, we will be having a crypto one this year.
Great, thanks, Claire. Right, Eva is asking, in the situation where a non-EU company wants to export from the UK goods which are subject to an export license. It is registered for VAT in the UK but does not have a UK office address nor a company house number. Can that company be registered on SPIRE?
Usually, no. If you look at the legislation, I was asked this question the other day. If it's an EU member, so someone from another EU member state, what usually happens is the freight agent will apply for the license on their behalf. If it's someone who's outside the EU, then usually they will get an agent or someone else to do the license for them on the SPIRE system. But in general, you need to have a UK, registered as a UK company, or you can apply as an individual. But for our SPIRE system, usually you have to have an address in the UK.
That's it. Address in the UK.
Great, thanks. I think that's about all we've got time for. So thank Michelle and Claire for answering all those questions for us.
You're welcome.
Don't forget that we'll be posting all these questions onto our Ask the Experts forum, and any additional questions we get through will also go on there. So you'll receive your answers through our Ask the Experts forum from both Michelle and Claire, and also our community of experts. Don't miss our next webinar. Our next webinar is on May the 18th, and it's all about finding the right agents or distributors to grow overseas. And further afield, we've got in June, we've got Introduction to Shipping and Documentation, and also Common Exporter Mistakes to Avoid. And finally, in July, we're having a webinar on VAT duties and keeping the international taxman happy. And finally, don't forget, you can still enter our Export Action Plan competition. All you have to do is go to the website, opentoexport.com, and fill in your Export Action Plan, and then you will get entered into the competition to win the £3,000 prize. There's only 1 month to go, so if you can get those done as soon as possible, then you'll be sure to be entered in for the prize. So once again, thank you very much to Michelle and Claire. Their contact details are now should be on screen, so you can get in touch with them directly. And finally, thanks to everybody for listening, and hopefully we'll see you all again in the next webinar. Thank you very much.